is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Welcome, one and all, this Wednesday night, the 1st of August, 2018. You're watching the iRacing Esports Network, and we are V8s Online, presenting to you the GT League's Australia Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia, the top GT3 series in the iRacing Oz NZ community, round 3 of the series at the magnificent Watkins Glen circuit. It's going to be a cracker for sure. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box once again, Brock Cat-Eye. Brock, it's time for Watkins Glen. Bit of a far cry from the circuits that we've raced so far. High average speed here.
Yeah, this circuit is quite different, particularly from Montreal, which we saw as we know, is a bit more of a street circuit, whereas this, you've got a lot of runoff area, particularly in that turn one. No off tracks from iRacing when you go off onto that concrete apron, so expect people to use that to possibly gain some speed and get the run up into the S's. And it is quite a flowing track, particularly we're using the classic boot version, so expect a lot of overtaking out of the S's and into the carousel section before we head into the actual boot section of the track that makes up that layout as opposed to the cup layout. I'm excited, a lot of drafting and hopefully a lot of overtaking tonight. And with the differences between these cars as well, it always makes some fun, particularly in a straight line with the different engines.
Yeah, it certainly does. And, you know, the fact that slipstreaming is so crucial here at Watkins Glen, I think it'll certainly result in some fantastic racing, but we will need to watch out through the S's. That's been a choke point in many of the series that we have raced. And I don't think it'll be any different this time around. It'll be up to the drivers to navigate that Armco Canyon very carefully. So we've got our 45-minute race format here tonight, and coming off Montreal and Interlagos, we've got a bit of an interesting fight happening in the drivers' standings, if we can just touch on that quickly. John Peasneck, he was sitting pretty for a dominant championship lead, but he suffered some major issues at Montreal that have put him in second place, and Ross Rizzo is leading the championship once again, our 2 in a row series champion. So once again, it seems to be the case that driving safely is paying off for Rizzo.
Well, that was what Rizzo was always great at last season, was he was able to capitalize on results that, you know, potentially they weren't a win or anything. I think he got maybe only a couple of wins out of 10 rounds last season, and the rest were top 5 results. But that is what he is good at, and he managed to make it work, and now he's leading the championship. He's doing really, really well at the moment, and expect him to still be strong. He's fast in that car, and like you said, he capitalizes on results that mightn't be as good and doesn't make any silly mistakes. We saw in Interlagos and in Montreal as well, some silly mistakes being made that led to drivers like John Peasneck had a couple of spins and some cut tracks and that sort of thing, and he had a comfortable lead, and it all went away. So you've got to minimize those and make the most of the time you have on track to get those points. And that's what Ross Rizzo has done the last couple of seasons. And we can see now that's the setup he's got now. That's why he has the number 1 on his car, and he is one of the best in the field, not just pace-wise, but in terms of actually racing the car. And he's awesome to watch, and I'm really keen to see how he goes tonight. Particularly, we do have a few other strong guys in the field, but like I said, some silly mistakes being made, some great battling going on, but sometimes leading to incidents, which means that some people, unfortunately, are getting taken out and losing massive points. It's 400 points for a race win in this series. So you've really got to consider how many points you're losing if you have a DNF, and try get out there and pick up some points if you're really serious about doing well.
Yeah, exactly right. And, it's a highly competitive field, and at the first round of the championship at Interlagos, we saw all of that come to a head with multiple crashes, multiple caution periods, and many damaged cars out there. So I think this time by round 3, the drivers definitely showed that they have what it takes to put on a clean show. Hopefully, it improves even further here because, as you said, it's Ross Rizzo's championship lead that really demonstrates the importance of racing cleanly, racing safely. We will have to keep an eye on those S's, though. As we're loading into the servers to get this show on the road, just want to introduce quickly, we've got a third person in the commentary box with us tonight, Brock. Joining us from Team Huge Ass, David Haynes. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good to be here, guys. I am racing in the Porsche series here in GT Leagues Australia, but not in the GT3 series. It's great to be in the commentary box for this, and I'm excited for this race.
What are your predictions for this one? Are we going to see carnage? Are we going to see some awesome battling as we expect?
No doubt we've got a lot of very talented drivers, some very quick ones, and we're going to have some good racing. That doesn't mean it's going to be clean racing the entire time. You said watch out through the S's, and I think that's a good plan because that is where the track is sort of narrowest, the barriers are closer, it's one of the highest speed bits, and if someone in front of you makes a mistake, you might not see their stricken car as you come up through the S's barriers both sides over the hill.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's one thing that you have to take into account around Watkins Glen. It's a very old style track. Current layout of the circuit dates back to the early 1970s, so it's still very much a circuit of that time despite safety improvements over the years. Those walls are still very close, those corners are still very fast, and if someone crashes in front of you and you don't have a spotter right on that ready to go, then it's certain doom. So you definitely have to be super careful. Well, 5 minutes and 22 seconds left to go in this practice session leading up to the race, and the drivers are now out there just testing the conditions, testing their cars, seeing how things are stacked. Weather, Brock. We've got a 40-degree track out there right now. It's pretty warm temperatures.
Yeah, look, that doesn't really bode well for the S's as well. Like you were saying, it is a bit of a choke point, and that means there's going to be minimum grip out there as well. Like we're talking in those 40-degree temperatures, these cars, they have a lot of grip and they can, you can really throw them into corners. But with these bigger temperatures out there on track, they're going to have to take it a little more easily because the cars will slide around on them. And because Watkins, like you said, has that higher average speed, you're going a lot faster through a lot of these corners. So you just got to be careful, particularly when you're making moves. Under brakes, less grip. Through the corner, less grip. So you've got to be really careful so that we don't see people flying off into walls everywhere. And we do want to see good racing. And I wanted to touch on this. Last season, we saw some awesome racing from a lot of the guys. We've got some of our regulars back from last season, but we've also got some new guys. And it's good to see from last round and hopefully continuing into this one that they start to get used to each other, and we just see that great racing we're used to in GT Leagues Australia. So I'm really keen, and hopefully we can get a great race here tonight.
Yes, indeed. Just under 4 minutes to go until we start gridding up for this race. The first times have come in the practice session. Mark Rayner at the top, Jamie McKnight coming around in second place. So it's definitely a lot of just acclimatization runs from the drivers at the moment, feeling their way around this circuit. They've already had a qualifying session with which to see how fast they can go, but driving with each other in a big field around here, I mean, they do it in NASCAR, they do it in the United Sports Car Championship, iRacing GT3s, They've come here quite a bit. And even in some races, I think that will be broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network. So be sure to check out the VRS GT series as well if you want to see the absolute cream of the crop in world endurance racing on iRacing. But Bo Albert currently getting to the top of the timesheets in that car 06, and Altus Esports with that brand new livery, guys.
Yeah, that livery is very nice in my opinion. Looking at that blew me away a little bit. They did have just that sort of grey livery, sort of interim livery the last couple of weeks, but yeah, that Audi is looking awesome at the moment. And well, it might add some speed to him as well. Bo's been strong. He went really well in the Porsches last week, making up something like 24 spots or something like that across the two races. And GT3, he's an absolute gun as well. We've seen how well he can go. And in this Audi here, he's just proving that now. We have had Ross Rizzo go to the top, the man we were talking about before, but Bo's still got some good speed behind him. And good to see these guys are starting to get used to the track. Those times are improving as the session goes on, but the real test will be in the race here when we find out how they can handle those hot track conditions with another 30-something cars around them.
Yeah, certainly. And touching on Altus Esports, they've got a two-car lineup in this series. Of course, Bo Albert and Zach Hanlon competing for that team. And yeah, they've definitely shown potential. Bo and Zach, both very quick in GT3s, as you said, but their results in this series, this season rather, so far, have not reflected that at all. They've been involved in some incidents which have really put them out of contention, and retirements from both rounds so far. So with this new livery, hopefully for them, it will mean a clean slate for their races to come.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Reese. And like you said, they've shown awesome potential and they've had some great speed. Bo in the Porsche last week, that was awesome to see him do so well considering the results they'd had. And Altus Esports has a great driver lineup. Zach Hanlon and Bo Albert are both great drivers, but like you said, they just had some bad luck. So hopefully today, like I said, clean slate, there's new liveries, they can go fast and show the world what they're really made of there at Altus Esports, and that is fast drivers, fast cars, and good results.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're under a minute to go until we switch over to the race session. So, final words from you, David. We've already heard what you expect from the race, but we've certainly got a few possibilities at hand here. John Peacenik will be starting from pole. Do you think he'll be able to hold on to it in that McLaren?
Well, you've mentioned it. It's a very hot track, 40 degrees for this race today, and I think that doesn't favour the McLaren in the longer runs. I think the Mercedes and the Audi can look after their rear tyres a little bit better. That McLaren can be very quick over one lap, and John Peacenik has proven that, put it on pole, and he's a quick driver. But I just worry that over his 45 minutes, his tyres maybe just won't last as well, and he might fall backwards. That's what I'm going to be looking for.
Well, we'll see what happens, certainly. Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by V8s Online. We've got the grid up on screen right now. John Peacenik on pole for this race, with Luis Paulo Gallon in second, All-Star Motorsports' Dane Warren in third, Fusion Sim Racing's Trent Thomas in fourth place, Reese Gasul, Peacenik's teammate, in fifth place. Anthony Winkleman is the first Trick Sim Sports car in sixth, with Ross Rizzo, our championship leader, in seventh. Joshua Skin, 8th, Nick Cummings from TTL Esports, 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Brock, Steve Jansen.
And in 11th place, we've got Scott Solosky and Bo Albert in 12th behind him. Martin Silvassi in a Trick Sim Sports machine in 13th. Zach Hanlon, Bo's teammate, in 14th. Maurizio Lastres in 15th. Adam Briggs, 16th. Ethan Warren, 17th. Dan King in 18th. Matt Morris, 19th. And rounding out our top 20 tonight, Corey Ott.
Blake Neck, the second Fusion Sim Racing entry, in 21st position. Mitch McLeod from Talk Inc. is starting in 22nd position. Thomas McMillan starting in 23rd. Jamie McKnight will take to the grid in 24th place. It'll be interesting to see what he can do for Evolution Racing Team. Gene Fiddies in 25th position. The Gene Genie, as our friend Jake Sperry likes to call him. Liam Burns in 26th. Alex John in 27th. Brody Whitmore lining up in 28th. Rounding out our 30-car field here on the final row, we've got Mark Rayner, and Cody Bircher. Formation lap is on.
This is going to be an interesting race, I think, and I'm just looking at this McLaren and thinking I love the fire-breathing look of it out the back there, and I love that John Peasnick can make this car work. I think he's the only McLaren in the field here, just like he had the only Ford GT last season, and somehow he made that car work. So I'm going to be interested to see it here. I think David's predictions of the tyres going off is actually a really interesting look at the McLaren and how it's going to perform tonight, and he could be very right there as well. Because John has got a very different car to most of the other drivers there. We've got a lot of Mercedes in this top 10, top 11 cars as well. Be interesting to see how he performs compared to all of them. And also Dane Warren in a BMW in third, a rare sight as well. We're used to seeing Mercedes and Audis. So there is going to be a bit of performance difference between the Mercedes, BMWs and McLarens up in that top 5 there. And I'm really curious to see how we go. Dane showed some great pace in Montreal coming third, and he managed to just work his way through the pack and stay safe. And like we were saying before, that's what you need to do in these races to get maximum points. That's what Ross Rizzo's great at doing. He's down in 7th at the moment, but most races we've seen him in, he works his way up, and that's because he's safe. So coming around about halfway through this sighting lap now, I'm curious, I'm excited, I'm ready to go.
Yes, indeed. We're coming into the boot section here at the moment. Now, this is a section that we should all be watching through the race. This has some of the prime overtaking opportunities on the circuit, and one of the more recent layout additions, once again in the early 1970s, but there's a good outbraking spot down here at the toe of the boot. Very interesting line through this corner as well. It's very easy to gain and lose any amount of time through that corner, so watch out for passes being set up out of it as well as passes being made into it, because it's certainly a kind of corner that lends itself to that. Down at the heel of the boot as well. A corner that's somewhere between 2nd and 3rd gear, depending on the way you've got your car set up. And that gravel trap has certainly claimed a few cars in this series, as well as other series that we broadcast on V8's Online. And then they come around to these final few corners of the lap. And the anticipation is certainly building. They're starting to fall back a little bit from the pace car now. Another thing that we've got to consider, guys, that mandatory pit stop, that pit entry at Watkins Glen on the apex of the last corner. Certainly potential for some incidents there, but the pace car is going to pull into the pits, the iRacing roof safety car, and Peasnick is going to lead the field away here. Oh, almost a little bit of contact. You can see Gallon move right over there at the start, but Peasnick leading down the front stretch. The cars are going to fan out here into turn 1, and you can already see Gallon and Warren having little looks, but Peasnick leading out of turn 1. Let's have a look back in the pack. Oh, there's a bit of an incident I can see going on here. A couple of cars off. That's Gene Fiddies and Mitchell McLeod involved in an incident, Brock.
Yeah, I'm just watching up through the S's at the moment here, watching to see if there's any contact. It looks like they've actually gotten through there completely clean. That is awesome to see. So now they can start to get everything sorted out here, make some moves, but we're through what was arguably the hardest part of this first lap, which is that S's section all bunched up. We've actually got Luis Paulo Gallon, Dane Warren, and John Peasnick embroiled in battle for the lead. And Dane Warren is going around the outside here of John Peasnick. Gallon has fallen back a bit. Warren is going to slot back into 2nd place here. Peasnick will maintain the lead, but now Trent Thomas has moved up into 3rd. Already battling going on in the very early stages of this race.
Yeah, certainly, and Gallon has really fallen back there down the straight. He's now facing pressure from Anthony Winkleman, so close to making contact. They're all jostling for position here on lap 1, just trying to find their place. And I'll tell you what, was Gallon actually going for the move there on Gasol, but I don't think he'll be able to hook it up. Gasol has the traction on the exit. Oh, he's still going for the moves there. Gallon not too happy about his state of affairs, and Gasol on the wall.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear. Oh, the track's almost blocked. That's a very narrow lane. There's potential here for a big incident. Oh,
well done, guys.
Avoided.
Safety car's been deployed. Okay, we've got looks like an OPR car there also spun around. That was just really unfortunate there. I'm going to be honest here. Gallon sort of threw it up the inside there, and Gasol did a very good job to give him space. but just went a bit too wide, and that's not Gasul's fault at all, but he just got out there on the grass and hit the wall and then came back across, but that was opportunistic at best from Gallon. I think he was a bit frustrated with how he'd come at the start of the race. He dropped back a couple of positions and he really wanted to get it. He tried to do the switchback, and yeah, it just didn't quite go as well as what it probably could have. And I think Gasul was caught a bit off guard there and just went a bit wider, and yeah, that's ended up in that. Luckily, no 20-car pileup or anything like that. Most people are okay, and the race will go on after this safety car.
Well, it has pretty big championship implications, I will say, because Ross Rizzo was involved in that smash. So he's going to be a very unhappy chappy right now, Mr. Rizzo, all the way at the back of the field. He's going to have to make sure that he gets everything sorted in that manner. Currently going for a replay of the start incident. That was Gene Fiddies and Mitchell McLeod. Just looked to me like Fiddies went into the back of McLeod going into turn 1. He gave the position back, though. Good sportsmanship. So they race on. But back live, big championship implications for Ross Rizzo. It's still early days in the season, but this could put a real dent in his title fight.
Well, as I was saying before, that you get 400 points for a race win here. If you DNF or you finish way down in the pack, you're risking losing 300 points to your rivals straight up. And we're only at round 3 as well. But you lose 300 points now. It means you've got to claw those points back. And if he finishes first and, say, Peasnick, if he's in second place, if he's in first, finishes second, he's only clawing back 12 to 15 points on him anyway. So he's really got to... I mean, tonight he's got to move his way back up through the field if he really wants a good chance, because guys like Warren, Peasnick, and Thomas has been very strong as well. Trent Thomas has been up there or thereabouts each race. They're going to be looking for the championship win, and in their ideal world, they won't let up, and they're going to try and get the best results they can. Obviously, Rizzo didn't plan that incident happening. It's just happened, but now he's got to try and work his way back through the field. Back in 25th now, 18 spots down on where he started, but we know he does have some good pace, so he might be able to work his way back through still with 40 minutes left to go here.
Indeed. David, your thoughts on that incident?
Well, Gallon got a very good run up through the S's, got side by side with Peasnick into the carousel. Peasnick defended the inside, and then Gallon lost out on the outside, and that's how he ended up a few places back. And then that desperation from there to get those places back, sort of the shoes become on the other foot, and we've seen that other driver go into the wall. So, yeah, a contentious move, I suppose, there from Luis Polo Gallon, but you see how he ended up in that position was that he was almost bumped wide by John Peasnick on the first lap.
Yes, indeed. Multiple things to consider in that one, but we'll leave that to the stewards to have a look at. But aside from those incidents, the first couple of laps were remarkably clean, I think, especially compared to what we saw at round 1. And the lights are now off on the pace car. We'll be going back racing in just a lap. Now, what I'm concerned about here is Peasnick versus Warren up the front. You could see that just before the incident with Gallon and Gasul, Warren was really pressuring the back of Peasnick. You can tell he's hungry to take that race lead.
Yeah, that's it. We know Warren's a very talented steerer. We've seen him in the LMP1 in OEC, the GT3 in this series here, and the V8 in Scops in the official Monday night series. He's actually just off the back of a win at Belle Isle on Monday night. So I'm sure he's got a bit of momentum rolling at the moment. Also won in OEC just last weekend. So he's really got some momentum going at the moment. And I'm sure winning this GT3 race tonight will just top that all off for him coming into the weekend for Scops. So you could see, like you said, coming into that first lap, and on that first lap, he was hungry. He was looking at every opportunity that he could, and he saw the opportunity when Peasnick was slow and nearly got it to work, but round the outside there, coming into the boot, doesn't really work out too well, so he just had to slot back in behind. He's already made up one position. With about 38 minutes left to go, probably more like 36 when we finish this pace lap. He's still got a lot of time to make it work, and like David was saying earlier, if those tyres go off even a little bit on that McLaren, I'm sure Warren will be there to swoop right by if he gets the opportunity. So Peasnick's got to be careful here.
Yeah, he certainly does. And remember, we've still got the pit stop phase to come up. It was a bit early in the race to consider making a pit stop under this safety car. So I don't believe any drivers have decided to go for that route, so who knows? Perhaps considering the old adage that safety cars breed safety cars, the drivers might be waiting for another one of these caution periods to pop up later on in the race and take their pit stop then. Otherwise, they face the possibility of taking those green flag pit stops, and well, that's a bit of a chance to take, to be sure.
Well, those two Trick Sim Sport cars, Ross Rizzo and Anthony Winkelmann, did come through the pit lane just then. They're now at the back of the field. They've cleaned up the cars a little bit of repairs done, but I'm sure they also took the opportunity to just put that little bit of extra fuel back in the tank. So they'll be starting at this restart from the back of the field, but I imagine their next pit stop will be shorter than everyone else.
Yeah, if they pit at all, we know that Trick Sim Sports love to do that fuel saving, so it'll be a big challenge for them. But Watkins Glen, high slipstreaming circuit, plenty of opportunities for fuel saving coming up to the carousel especially. So we'll be watching out for those guys as they come through the field. But up the front, John Piesnik is about to lead the field away as they come through the last corner, and he is away right at the apex of the last corner, sorry. He got a very good run, and you can see that Gallon really got a good jump as well, actually got by Trent Thomas and is now in third place. So the field coming down into turn one under racing conditions again. Bo Albert versus Joshua Skin, that looks pretty spicy.
Yeah, Bo's decided to hop back in the slipstream there, but like we said, that draft is really important here, and he might be able to make a move considering this is the classic section. He'll get a real nice run out of the S's here. Might be able to throw it down the inside, provided Skin doesn't defend too hard. He's riding the middle of the circuit at the moment, but Bo's going to pop out around the inside there. Might be able to throw it down the inside. He's not very far up, and there we go. He's decided to go, but Skin may try hold it around the outside here. He's having a look. That's the best part about the carousel. No, he's going to slot back in behind there. So we've actually had Gallon get past Warren. Gallon is on a charge at the moment. After that incident on the first lap where he moved back, he is wanting this win. Warren's going to try come back a bit. He's actually tried to go around the outside here, and he's going to have to slot back in behind. That's left him a little bit vulnerable to Thomas behind. So he's going to have to watch him coming down to this next section of corners. Yet these guys are playing for keeps tonight.
Yeah, certainly. And with Warren, you can take it around the outside at that corner, and you can see he actually got some really nice traction out of the exit. In fact, you can see there Warren has got the rear end of that car hooked up, but Gallon certainly with a very determined drive after those lap one shenanigans. So certainly under threat now is John Piesnik. Meanwhile, I'm looking further back, Scott Silovsky and Zach Hanlon battling with Adam Briggs. These guys are really close at the moment. This is the battle for the lower reaches of the top 10. And now,
sorry, Reese, we've got Blake Neck and Corey Ott were going side by side through the last corner. Ott's just thrown himself back in behind Neck here, but they nearly went 3 wide coming to that last corner, and Neck's just about drilled the back of Dan King. He got very close there on the brakes. We're going back to second and third place here with Gallon and Warren. Warren has got a great run out of the S's section and is looking left and right, trying to find a way. Gallon has gone ultra defensive here. Warren is going to have to find his way around the outside. Thomas is in on this too. Yeah, and he's now looking to the inside. Thomas is right there waiting to take the position away if anyone makes a mistake. Like I said earlier, Thomas has been strong, and give him an opportunity and he will go through. This is giving Piesnik the opportunity to just run away.
Oh, we got a car around. Matt Morris around. That's certainly not optimal, and that's happened at the carousel, I believe. Going to a quick replay of that. That was an incident with Thomas McMillan. McMillan taken to the grass in an attempt to pass. I don't know if he was squeezed by Morris, but either way, that has resulted in a very heavy hit with the wall.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. Going back live now, it just looks like McMillan tried to be a little bit opportunistic with that move, and he's just gone on the grass, and, well, they've made contact and Morris is around. And back to live now with Silvassi and Hanlon battling it out. Hanlon's a little bit further back in the pack at the moment, back now in 12th spot by the looks of it. He's going to have a quick look at Silvassi. They're going to have to slot back in behind. This corner here isn't really an overtaking opportunity, but they'll have to wait until potentially the last corner. He's going to have to slot back in behind there, but a nice long straight to draft in behind here.
He just messed up in the middle of the last corner. You hit that curve just wrong. It really upsets the car, and Hanlon finding that out definitely the hard way. But both of these guys, ex-teammates from Evolution Racing Team, Silvassi going to Trick and Hanlon going to Altus. But second and third, once again, very close out of the S's, and you can see Gallon knows the possibility here that Warren will go up the inside, so he's preemptively protecting it. And you can see that once Warren hits that air outside of Gallon's slipstream, he just has absolutely nothing on him. So it's going to be a challenging pass to make for Dane. Coming down into the boot once again, this is where the BMW will shine the most, these medium speed corners. Gallon seems to have him covered for the most part. I guess it's just a case of whether or not he can weather the pressure that Warren is putting on him.
Yeah, well, it's a bit awkward here. It looks like Gallon is holding up, particularly Thomas and Warren a bit. We've got Nick Cummings behind them is holding up another big battle pack there. But yeah, Warren just can't seem to find the right place to get past. And the one place he's looking at, Gallon has him covered with arguably the better engine in the Mercedes with that powerful V8 in there. He just holds that inside line, doesn't do anything wrong by any means, and Warren just can't get the speed to slip by him. And now, as we can see here, he's just not quite there to take the opportunity to pass, and they're just going to have to go around another lap and try again. Yes, oh, indeed. That was a big moment for Warren there.
And that's certainly not going to help the drafting that he would like to do. Seems he's a little far back for that to have any meaningful effect, but I tell you what, this might actually help because he can make use of that run out of the S's and gain a bit of momentum coming into the carousel if he can stay within draft range. I get the feeling that he might be a bit too far back. Trent Thomas is now all over the back of that All-Star Motorsports BMW. I get the feeling that a move may very well be on here. You can see Warren just going to the inside, just protecting that, and it seems like Thomas just does not have the momentum that he needs to get that move done, but they are battling really hard right behind them. Nick Cummings versus Bo Albert, and also the DPR cars having a very interesting battle with Steve Jansen in the CMR Mercedes.
Yeah, those DPR guys are ganging up on CMR a little bit there, but they're battling really hard at the moment. We've got Skid and Briggs are fighting it out at the moment. Briggs is going to throw it down the inside of Jansen here, and Jansen, he might be a little bit susceptible to Silvassi behind on the exit of this corner here. He's going to try throw himself back into the draft to try and make another move. Silvassi has actually gotten a fairly good run here. It looks like he's going to be able to throw it down the inside. That's a great move from him there, capitalised on the slow exit there from Jansen, and now not a great few corners there for Jansen, and he's going to try throw it down the inside again. That was going to be a close one there. Smart move to not actually throw it up there, otherwise that could have been another incident like we saw earlier in the race.
Yeah, certainly. And you know what? Zach Hanlon, I'm noticing, is really struggling at the moment. He's trying his best to get by Jansen here, but I've noticed his last few laps have not been optimal. And I would argue that he should be a bit higher up than he is, but he's just unable to make those moves happen. He's making those little mistakes. He's going for the outside around Jansen, but he is not going to be able to get that done. Very wide through that tarmac runoff area, and he's just going to have to tuck in behind for at least one more lap. That's the battle for 10th and 11th.
And we've got Ethan Warren as well, sort of coming up on this battle here as Jansen. And we've got Ross Rizzo in the pits, so that fuel window must have opened. I don't think he had a crash, and maybe playing, it was a 6-second stop, that one, so maybe just playing the strategy game, trying to get ahead a little bit, get some clear air as well. Back in the pack, he's probably being held up. We know he's got some good speed, so we'll see where it all shakes out when we come to the pit cycles end. We've still got about 28.5 minutes here, so quite a bit of racing left to go, about 16 laps. So keep an eye on him. He's basically shot himself to the back of the field now, but he's got some beautiful clear air to work in.
That's exactly right, and you know, I feel like he's realized that the safety car has not bred another safety car, so it's really for the best that Rizzo pits now and gets that clear air, so maybe he can leapfrog the guys that he was racing. But that battle for second and third, meanwhile, still going strong. Warren has caught back up to Luis Paulo Gallon and actually dropped Trent Thomas a bit here. So Dane Warren back on the charge well and truly.
Yeah, he's obviously got some mega pace in that BMW. He actually tapped the brakes a little bit through at the last turn there. So whether he was going too fast or didn't want to hit Gallon, who knows? But yeah, like you said, he's pulled away from Thomas and now he's back on with Gallon. So he really has some pace. He just can't get the move done. And I guess they say catching someone's the easy part. It's actually overtaking that makes it hard. And this is living, breathing proof right now. But this, what you were saying before, is that he needed that run up through the S's to build that speed as he came up onto this straight here leading into the carousel to actually make that move on Gallon. So he's going to stay in the slipstream. He is gaining on him. Gallon's taken him right over the white line there. Warren's going to have to try take it around the outside here. He's not going to be quite far enough up. He's going to have to drop back in behind Gallon here and just take it easy. You know, be patient. It's all about racing. He's still very, very close. Not going to throw it down the inside here. Probably a smart move. Gallon is a very racy guy. He's feisty. He loves this sort of battling, but also loves coming first. So it's going to be important to him to stay in this position and not let Warren by.
Yeah, certainly. And I think Trent Thomas is doing the smart thing here, hanging back, because not only can he take advantage if these guys end up coming together at some point, but oh, goodness me, a little bit of contact between Gallon and Warren, and that was, I think, well and truly the bump and run, and Warren has noted that and readdressed the positions. So good sportsmanship from him in that respect. Also escapes a bit of a scrutinization by the stewards, I suppose.
Yeah, so it was a little bit cheeky there, but then he did let him back past. So that's what we like to see, and he's still nice and close to you, but that's brought Trent Thomas back into the picture. So this battle for second, third, and fourth is really, really heating up. And Warren, there's still a little bit of gap between Thomas and Warren there, but like you said earlier, Thomas could just be biding his time. If they've made contact once, they're probably going to make it again, and it could be bigger. And then Thomas is through to second just like that in that FSR Mercedes. So he's playing the smart game at the moment. Pit stops haven't happened yet for the most of our field. Gallon was a little bit wide there in the first part of the S's. That car did not look comfortable through there, and Warren is, he's got pace at the moment. Gallon is going to take that ultra tight line and mine that inside line. Warren is right around the outside here. Thomas is in Warren's draft. This is about the furthest up Warren has been on the outside through this corner, but he may just have to slot back in, and that's what he's going to do. Just not quite far enough up there. Even with some of the superior braking power of that BMW, you just can't make it happen.
No, certainly not. Thomas just having a little bit of a look, and oh, have a look at how deep Warren went into there. I think he outbraked himself a little bit, and that has allowed Trent Thomas to have a go, but it seems to me that this battle not quite done yet. Warren trying to hold off on Thomas, but have a look at the outside line there from Trent. Meanwhile, we got a crash back in the field. Brodie Whitmore involved. That's an interesting one. We'll see what happened there. So that was Brodie Whitmore and Thomas McMillan. So yeah, definitely an interesting one.
Both cars there. Okay, so McMillan's thrown it down the inside at the entry to the boot there, basically, and he's made it work. And then they've made, McMillan's lost it on the exit there, and Whitmore's driven into him, just taking the regular racing line, and that's, yeah, that was just a mistake by McMillan there. No bad feelings or anything, and Whitmore just hasn't seen him, so that's a bit unfortunate for the both of them.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, just going back up to the top of the field now, Dane Warren has managed to hold off Trent Thomas, and actually having a look there, Brodie Whitmore lap flagged by race control. Not sure what that's about. Obviously deemed to be at fault for that incident or an earlier one. Meanwhile, we're looking at the pack 2x2 in the S's here. Blake Neck, Scott Sadlowski, Dan King and Corey Ott all fighting together in this one pack. Slipstream upon slipstream, and these guys battling down in the lower verge of the midfield. I'll be looking to make up quite a few positions, and Neck doing well at the front of this pack, but I feel like the one that is certainly putting his heart into it is Mr. Ott.
Yeah, Corey always goes out there and he really wants to do well. So when you see him, you know, he's drafting, he's trying to make those moves work. It's because he really, really wants to get every little position that he can. And he's made up 4 positions since the start of the race by the looks of it. So he's really doing well. And in this little battle pack, with that draft, all it takes is just that little bit extra speed off the corner and you're down the inside. So he's still quite close to Solosky here. Blake's got a little bit of space up front there. So now Solosky has to look behind him and worry about Ott and King behind him, particularly coming around to this last sector and onto the front straight to make sure a move doesn't get thrown down the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, certainly. Neck in a Ferrari versus 3 Mercedes. The balance of performance of the GT3 cars right now is pretty much spot on, but oh yeah, I just saw that. That was Dan King getting into the back of Corey Ott through the last turn. You can tell that he's not quite done with Mr. Ott there, but not going for the move into turn 1. He's going to wait until the carousel. Neck going very wide through that runoff area, but you can do that here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, well that's it. I mentioned that pre-race, sorry, that you don't get an off-track or anything like that for that. So people use that to get that extra speed. They do it in real life in NASCAR as well. They really take it wide there and take advantage. Scott Solosky's actually quite close, and behind we've got Ott. He's got to worry about King here. King is having a little look, probably won't be able to make it down there into the carousel. But again, if you can get up nice and close in this more technical section of the track coming up, then you can think about making moves. And King is looking very racy here. We're going to go back to the battle for 5th. We've got Cummings, Briggs, Albert and Silvassi all battling it out here, 5th through 8th place here. Cummings has got a lot of guys behind him looking racy and want to slip past there. And Cummings has been a little bit off the pace compared to our leaders here. He's done well to hold 5th place, but he's taking that middle line, trying to defend here. And Briggs has nearly gone around the outside as they come down into this corner. And we look at the background here, we've got Albert and Silvassi. Silvassi's gotten through, but Albert is going to fight hard for this position and keep it as he comes through here. And Briggs is up the inside of Cummings as well. It's all going on. They nearly made contact there.
Oh yeah, very good battle here. And I wanted to actually draw your attention to Adam Briggs because he is fighting for 6th and 5th place. He started in 16th, so he's had the mother of all runs through the field right now. Very well done at the moment from Adam Briggs, and looks like he's going to try and challenge for 5th. That's Silvassi there, pulling out of the slipstream, trying to go for the move on Albert into turn 1, but they're very close on braking performance there. Albert should get the traction on the outside, but he'll have to give room to Silvassi through the S's. That is not going to help either of them. Silvassi slotting back in there, and now Albert in at the slipstream of Adam Briggs, and it's brought a few new players into town. Joshua Skin and Zach Hanlon getting in on this as well. And Briggs struggling to find a line here, and Cummings.
No! Briggs is off! Wow!
And not getting, oh yep, there we go. He got into the wall there, Adam Briggs. And
we've got one of the old C Sports cars around into the wall.
Oh, Albert.
No! Albert was having a great run there.
How on earth did that happen? I didn't quite see that. That was contact. Albert ran wide. We'll get a replay of that whole thing. It started with Cummings gradually closing the door on Briggs. I feel like there wasn't quite enough room there to start with for Briggs to try and make the move, but he had already committed to it and unfortunately got in the wall. Albert, he just ran wide, tried to come back to the inside, and Silvassi was there.
Yeah, I mean, Silvassi was just taking the regular racing line by the looks of it, and he had a car on his inside too, so he was a little bit wider than usual, but yeah, just a bit of unfortunate contact there. And from Briggs' point of view, it was hopeful, that move. It was almost like what McMillan tried to do, and it didn't go so well then, and he ended up, now he's out, he's crashed out, but or spun around, but yeah, it just was never going to work on the grass. And we're going to have a look at Dame Warren and Luis Paulo Gallen back together again. And we've got Warren in the pits. Sorry, my replay's a bit behind here, but he's in the pits now. So that pit window has opened up. He's probably trying to get himself a little bit of clear air here as well. He does have that pace. If he can jump Gallen, that could mean everything to him in terms of trying to catch Peasnick as well. Peasnick hasn't gotten too far ahead of them either. He was about 2 seconds ahead of Gallen. And if Warren can go on an absolute bender of laps in this last 20 minutes, he may well be able to catch him and challenge for the lead. Interesting to see these next couple of laps.
Yeah,
I think this was a good decision by Dane Warren, because we know that BMW can be pretty good on fuel. He might get a shorter stop, and also he might have been being held up a little bit through the boot section. I think he's best to just try for it and see what laps he can put in by himself.
Yeah, that's exactly right, David. We'll certainly have a look at what goes on there, but continuing to look at the battle here behind Nick Cummings, and Martin Silvassi and Zach Hanlon have profited from the shenanigans over the last lap. So they will now be looking for what is 4th place on track. Will be 5th once the field is corrected. Looking roughly single file here.
Yeah, so I was just going to mention on Peasnick as well, he hasn't really pulled away as much as what I thought he would. In Montreal, he had a great gap and then obviously made a mistake and that all went away. But even with all that battling going on behind him, he's only managed to stay about 2 seconds behind, in front of, Luis Paulo Gallen. So just watching here, Gallen and Thomas, neither of them have come in. We've got, I think it's Zach Hanlon has just come into the pit lane here, and Ethan Warren has also dived in. So, yeah, a couple of guys taking their pit stops. I think we had Ethan and Zach.
Oh,
We've got
no.
Cummings around as well, so that is not good for him at all.
No, certainly not, and that was contact with Silvassi. A CMR car around as well. That was Steve Jansen. He just ran right into Cummings when he had come to a stop. There was I don't think there was much avoiding that, but I think the blame, I guess you could call it, for that incident is placed squarely on Martin Silvassi's shoulders, because that was right into the rear of Cummings into turn 1.
Yeah, you can't really blame anyone else for that one. He probably outbraked himself a little bit, or Nick Cummings braked a little bit earlier. Specifics don't really matter, but Silvassi got into the back of him, he spun around, and yeah, unfortunately Nick Cummings was having a pretty good run, and we've just seen Silvassi's been black flagged now for what happened there, and that's put Cummings, he's dropped back quite a bit in the pack here, unfortunately, and he's got damage there too, so that isn't going to help him at all. He's back down in 12th now when he was up in about effective 5th place position.
Yeah, that's a real shame for Nick Cummings. He was actually doing incredibly well. I'm just looking at Blake Neck and Adam Briggs going side by side through the heel of the boot. Briggs with a much sicker looking car than Neck at the moment. Blake's kept it nice and clean here, but Briggs, you can tell, is just as racy as he has always been. And looking up the front, it looks like our leaders have once again avoided the pits. Just going back briefly to John Peasnick, I think this is very intentional from him, a bit of a measured drive, I think, because he built up that dominant lead at Montreal and it all went wrong for him. Maybe he's trying a different strategy here, just driving a measured pace up the front and seeing what that brings him.
Yeah, there's no benefit to wearing out his tyres, building up a gap that could be erased by a safety car any minute. Definitely best not to look in your mirrors too much, but just, keep a solid gap, keep that lead, and then 2 seconds is enough when the pit stops come that if you get yours right, you'll still hold that lead.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, Scott Solowski, Corey Ott, Dan King, as well as Mauricio Lastres. Lastres making his way around the outside of Carousel. Very good move, has to be said. That was built up all the way from the S's, and now Corey Ott's going to try and get up the inside of Mr. Kozlowski. But once again, Lastres proving that you can hold it around the outside at Carousel.
Yeah, that was a great move from him. He just kept that momentum going and managed to take it around the outside. Now he's looking to, I bet you he's looking to skip away now and let Solowski, King and Ott fight behind him. And Ott is still very close here to Solowski as well. Not going to throw it down the inside here. Smart move, and it can often be hard to pull the car up and get it turned in. And if you get that outside line, it's not going to be good. And Ott's looking around. He's looking racy like he wants to get by, but he just can't quite find that opportunity heading into this last sector of the track. Interested to see if he pits and tries to do what Warren's done and get out of that pack a little bit, because he obviously has some speed that he wants to use, but he just can't use it when he's stuck behind a car.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We'll see what he does here. Solowski goes for the pit lane. I tell you what, if That demonstrates right there the danger of the Watkins Glen pit entry. If you're right on the bumper of a car that's going into the pits, you don't know what they're going to do, whether or not they're going to accelerate out or just stay out of the throttle going into the pits, and it's very possible that you can rear end them. Fortunately, that did not happen, and Sislavsky's taken his pit stop. Oh, he actually overshot that, so that is not going to be good for his race.
Yeah, exactly. And particularly when he's in that sort of battle pack, everything needs to be millimeter perfect. Otherwise, you're going to disadvantage yourself. And Peasnick has actually just made a mistake. So now Gallon is going to come right up on the back of him. That cushion he had.
Oh, no.
I bet he's glad he has it now. But Gallon, he has got his target set. Peasnick has just made a mistake. And now with 12.5 minutes left to go, it's all on. And Peasnick looks to be struggling a little bit. This
he needs to pit now.
Even before that mistake, Gallon had been the fastest car on the track, closing him in, and now they're right up next to each other.
Peasnick needs to pit now. He can't leave it any longer. He has to get it done right now. Try and get those fresh boots on the car, get that pace back, take advantage, because Gallon is waiting in the wings here.
Yeah, that McLaren is sliding all over the place, and this could be what you were talking about earlier, David, in that those tyres may not be handling it as well, and he's quite wide on that curb there as well. This will be interesting to see if he does come into the pit lane here. He's kept on going. I don't think that's a smart decision with Gallon right behind him. Yeah, I mean, this could help Warren in the long run if these guys keep battling, but yeah, this doesn't bode well for Peasnick, I think. He doesn't need that pressure coming from behind from Gallon. We know he's a fierce racer and he will do anything within the means of the rules to get past someone.
Yeah, certainly will. And they're actually coming up on some lap traffic here, or are they? Sorry, I thought I heard another car in my replay. My mistake. They've got some clear air in front of them at the leaders, but yeah, Gallon, you can see right in the slipstream of Peasnick, and the McLaren is known as one of the best cars in a straight line. So to have that kind of run, Gallon has really got that car hooked up. They're actually leaving Trent Thomas in the dust here.
Yeah, that's it. So Peasnick has obviously found a bit more of that speed. Peasnick's actually, his best lap is a 1:44.7, but Paolo Gallon isn't much further off that, 44.9. So they're both quite close on pace, but Gallon has got some great pace underneath him. He's doing low 45s at the moment, which is a bit faster than what Peasnick was managing up ahead coming into this stage of the race. So I'll be interested to see when these guys pit, because I don't know, Peasnick is under a lot of pressure at the moment, and it might be smart to just pit in, potentially even let the tyres just cool down a little bit, get back out there and go again and try and start trying to set those purple sectors all over again.
Yeah, certainly. That's definitely something that would benefit Peasnick in that regard. It's a very difficult decision to make. If you've there we go. Peasnick going for the pit. There we go. Okay, so this is crucial that he's done the pit before Gallon and Thomas. I think that will benefit him, because he'll have some extra time to try and eke out a bit more of a gap over Gallon. We'll see how Gallon and Thomas respond. Well, we'll have to look at Dane Warren as well, guys, because he's just coming through into the last corner now. And remember, he took that very early pit stop, so this could work out extremely well for Dane Warren here. Peasnick coming out of the pits now, but Dane Warren just coming into turn one, so it has not worked out too well for him there.
His lap times have not been anything very special. Dane had a 5-second longer stop, so it sounds like maybe his JRT fuel numbers were a bit off, or what, he put a bit too much fuel in the car. But yeah, now he's in 7th place at the moment, and he is about 7 seconds behind Peasnick. So because of that extra 5 seconds, that's put him, well, it's put him way too far behind to grab a draft or anything like that. So it's going to be hard for him to reel them in, particularly with Gallon and Thomas in effective 2nd and 3rd, as far as we know. And yeah, it's unfortunate that that mistake was made, because now that's taken him probably out of contention for the win.
Yeah, it certainly has. That's certainly going to be one to have a look at post-race, because yeah, he was really pressuring Gallon for, at the very least, a 2nd place, and he could very well have taken that win if it weren't for that pit stop. So We'll see how he goes from here, but Gallon and Thomas now in the pits, and you could see Trent Thomas braking as late as he possibly could for that pit entry, just to try and gain anything he possibly could on Gallon. So this is the deciding factor for the top three at the moment. Luis Paulo Gallon versus Trent Thomas.
And Peasnick is coming through the last corner now onto the main straight.
See, oh, Thomas overshot.
And we're watching now. We've got Peasnick is going to take that first place back by the looks of it. As he comes through turn one now. Wow, that is a fairly solid amount of time there. That's immense. Paulo Gallon's stop was 7.4 seconds and Peasnick's was 7.1, so barely anything in it, a few tenths, but on track before the pit stops. If all of you out there remember, that gap was about a car length, and now he's got a solid couple of seconds on Paulo Gallon.
And Dane Warren a very long way back as well, so he doesn't even have a chance versus any of these guys. I tell you what, that's interesting. I don't think I've seen a case where taking a pit stop earlier is that beneficial.
Well, we saw how late Trent Thomas was on the brakes for the pit entry. Maybe Luis Paulo Gallon was just too conservative on his pit entry line there, and that could have lost him a second or so.
Yeah, it certainly could, but I tell you what, you have a look at Gallon versus Thomas. Look at the gap between them now. It was pretty close when they came into the pits, but now they're almost on different planets at the moment in terms of where they are on the track. So it's very interesting how the pit stops have worked out, but you can see up the front, Gallon starting to gain a little bit more here on John Peasnick, so it's still not over for the race win. We've got 6.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, this is going to be on for young and old with 4 laps left to go here, and we've got, they're going to battle hard for that. I reckon Gallon's going to try reel him back in, and their pace has been very, very good. So coming around for this next lap, John Peasnick did a 45.8, which is, on the slower side of things, and obviously Gallon's just done his outlap, but he's already reeling him in. And just to comment on Thomas's pit stop quickly, it was 32.5 seconds in the lane. I think I saw him have to reverse back into his box. So I feel like he may have overshot, and then he's lost a couple of seconds, and well, that's probably put him out of contention for second or first here. But because Warren made that mistake, he's now gone back, and he's quite a ways behind Thomas instead of in front. So unfortunate mistake there. But going back to Peasnick and Gallon has caught him quite a bit in the carousel as well. So this is going to be great, I reckon, these last 3.5 laps. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, there we go. Gallon already showing the nose. This is part of the strategy. Try and psych out John Peasnick. Try and take that race lead by forcing Peasnick into a mistake. But you could see Gallon, God, he's going so hard into the corners, and he was using that slipstream down the back straight to its absolute maximum potential. So certainly not over. When they cross the line next, it will be 3 laps to go. Peasnick knows it. Gallon knows it. They're going to be fighting incredibly hard. And I tell you what, if they continue this battle... Oh, Corriott around, we're hearing. Oh, and that looks like Nick Cummings there as well, having to recover from a spin. So, goodness me.
Yeah, so we've had Corriott's been hit by... I can't tell who that is there.
That's Mitch McLeod.
Mitch McLeod. It's not been his race. He's gotten out wide there, got loose, and absolutely slammed into Corriott. Corey spun, and oh wow, Ethan Warren rear-ended Nick Cummings there by the looks of it, because Nick slowed down and he didn't see what was going on, and resulted in, unfortunately, in Cummings being spun around there. Ott, I don't think, has any damage. He just got spun and tagged and spun around there. So unfortunate for him, because he was having a great run this race.
That's exactly right, and wow, that was a pretty fair whack. But it's on for the lead now as McLeod spun again, but now... Here we go, Luis Paulo Gallon almost taken to the grass, little bit of contact. Oh, but they both managed to keep it on the track there. Gallon, goodness me, Peasnick gave him slightly less than a car width, and Gallon went, yeah, okay, that's enough, I can make that work. Not without a little bit of rubbing, though.
Yeah, so I guess, as they say, rubbing's racing, but Peasnick is not going to have liked that, I don't think. And we've seen people try to defend hard there, and, well, Gallon just took that extra risk there to try and make it down the inside, and he made it work, even if for that contact. So Peasnick hasn't lost out too much, but now it's up to him to really push hard in that McLaren and bring it back. And he's run a bit wide there as well, so that's not going to help him. That's going to compromise his run. Maybe pushing a bit too hard, overdriving the car, knowing that first place is slipping away from him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess at this point, Gallon, priority number one for him is to continue driving the wheels off that Mercedes to try and gap Peasnick as much as possible. But goodness me, I think as Peasnick makes another small error, we got 2 laps to go. I think Peasnick has just watched that win slip away from him well and truly. Trent Thomas, I think he can smell a potential second here if Peasnick makes a mistake. But we are looking at the pack behind Blake Neck once again. Neck seems to have spent a lot of time at the head of a battle pack in this race. Adam Briggs has gotten by him, but he's still got Joshua Skinner, Mauricio Lastres behind him. So, actually, Blake doing rather well there. He's made one of the best runs in the field, at least in the top 10. He started in 21st. He's currently in 9th.
Yeah, he's had an absolutely awesome run, plus 12 positions. And he's our biggest mover of the race here tonight as well. Just looking in the background here behind Blake, we've got Skin and Lastres battling it out.
Oh,
that's contact between Blake and Lastres. Yes,
that was...
and that's in the wall. That's really unfortunate there, just as that battle was starting to heat up, and I dare say that Skins race over.
Yeah, certainly. That was... We're getting a CPR parts replay of that one. I feel that was a bit of an optimistic move on Skins' part.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I did not see that coming. Usually you can tell when they're just about to go for it, but that was completely out of the blue, and I'm assuming took Blake Neck off guard as well. And we're going to go back to second and third here because we've got Thomas. He's still reining Peasnick in, and now Peasnick has got a worry here. His speed is just not what it was at the start of this race. Trent Thomas has actually just done his fast lap of the race last lap round, and we'll see what the time is this time round, but he definitely... And we've actually got Trent Thomas as the fastest car on track right now. He just did a 1:45.5, which was 0.3 faster than Peasnick and 0.4 faster than Gallon. So he is flying at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly is. Trent Thomas doing fantastically here, but we are on the last lap of the race, guys. White flag. It's all on for Trent Thomas here to try and take second place from John Peasnick, and it's all on for Luis Paulo Gallon to hold on for victory here. He's likely going to do so quite convincingly, but all through the field, we're seeing battles that have yet to be settled. Dan King versus Blake Neck side by side through the S's, and that has slowed both of them up, allowing Mauricio Lastres to come through. Might they make it 3 wide? Lastres desperately looking for a space here, a little bit of a whiff of a slipstream to try and make use of. Oh, goodness me. Dan King going very deep, and there's contact once again, and Lastres. That was certainly not on. And Blake Neck is now facing a completely ruined race. It just seems to me like, I don't know, Lastres, I think he was expecting Neck to stay wide, but he didn't.
Yeah, it looked like there. I'm having a look at the replay just quickly. Blake Neck, he just turned in, and Lastres was there at his right rear quarter panel, so just unfortunate contact there. And we're shooting back to the leaders now as we look. Thomas is... Wow, he is right on the back of Peasnick there as they come through the second last corner now, sorry. I don't know if he'll be able to get it, but he's coming very, very close. And the last corner now as we look at Gallon just up the road there. He looks like he's going to take this race win. He's flashing his lights. Peasnick looks safe in second place, and Trent Thomas will bring home third place. Dane Warren in the background there after what seems to be a botched pit stop is going to bring home fourth place, and with a bit of a story of what could have been tonight.
Yeah, certainly. Meanwhile, Ross Rizzo in 6th? Where did that come from? I tell you what, I'm actually not surprised at all. Considering what we've seen from Ross Rizzo in the past, but Dan King out of fuel across the line. And that is going to be heartbreaking for him, losing 10 spots out of that last corner. So Dan King, he tried his very best, but was just unable to make it in the position that he was in. So a few things left for the stewards to look at. I think the incident between Nick and Lastres, I think, you know, one to be looked at. It could be looked at a few different ways. But I think for the most part, Race Control were actually pretty quick in handing out penalties tonight.
Yeah, I think so. They had a very quick hammer in a sense, in that if someone made a mistake and they hit someone off or took them out of the race, straight away black flagged. And that's good to see. They need that decisiveness to make sure that people understand that, you know, hitting people off into the wall, it's just not acceptable. It's not going to happen. So if you do it, straight away needs to be taken care of, and that's great. Obviously, more complicated matters, they might look at it after the race, but in this case, it was clear cut. Straight away, black flag, you've got a penalty. So, I mean, Race Control have really done well with this series, and this just helps prove it.
Yeah, no driver wants to be penalised, but it's really good to not have something hanging over your head, to have that judgment quickly. So I think that's very good admin of this series.
Yes, indeed. And that brings to an end proceedings on track. The results are on screen. Sir Luis Paulo Gallon taking the victory over John Peasnick with a bit of a crazy move up the inside at the carousel, but he managed to make it work, and they both kept it on track. Trent Thomas in third place, finishing very well there. Dane Warren in fourth. Yeah, as Brock said, what might have been. Zach Hanlon up from 14th to 5th, a very good run there. So some commiseration for Altus Esports today. Ross Rizzo coming home to finish in 6th place. Once again, that trick strategy, they know how to run that fuel. Adam Briggs in 7th, Mauricio Lastres in 8th, Reece Gasul finishing in 9th place after getting bumped out of the way, I think, by Gallon, well, not so much bumped, it was more of a scrambling for position. Scott Kozlowski rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, in 11th place here tonight, we have Jamie McKnight, who actually made up 13 positions. A great effort from him. Ethan Warren in 12th. Mark Rayner in 13th, having made up 16 positions there. That's an excellent race from him. 14th, Blake Neck, after a couple of bits of contact. Still up 7, but not quite where he would have wanted to be. Martin Silvassi in 15th. Steve Jansen, 16th. Alex John in 17th. Anthony Winkleman, 18th after that contact earlier. Bo Albert in 19th, and Dan King rounding out the top 20 here.
Liam Burns is going to come home in 21st, with Matt Morris in 22nd. Nick Cummings, another what might have been story. He was on for a potential 4th or 5th place, but he'll have to settle for 23rd in the end. Corey Ott in 24th as well. Gene Fiddies finishes where he starts in 25th position. And then we come to our non-lead lap finishers. Joshua Skin, Mitch McLeod, both 1 and 3 laps down respectively. And then our retirements, Thomas McMillan, Brody Whitmore, and Cody Bircher. 30 cars in this race today, and most of them took the finish. And I got to say, guys, that was a pretty entertaining one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that race. I think that this is what we love to see from SSA, and they've done an awesome job here. The guys raced really respectfully for the most part. Obviously, there were a couple of incidents, but that's always going to happen. That's racing. So now, with this race down, we're into round 4 at Mazda Laguna Seca, I think, next. But I really enjoyed that. What are your thoughts, David?
Yeah, great racing, a little bit of strategy, and a lot of on-track passes to boot, but hopefully not too much booting. And when there was some, I think Race Control were very quick in deciding who was at fault for those. So I think the drivers will know that they can make passes, but they've got to make them clean. And John Peasnick, I said, maybe he was going to lose the tyres from out underneath him. And to some extent, we did see his pace drop away quicker than the Mercedes and the BMW cars. But I think he did a very good job still to get 2nd place.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can.
indeed.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that there. Peasnick, you were very right in saying that, and we saw the pace of that Mercedes with Trent Thomas, who was the fastest on track in those last few laps and really making it work well for him. And yeah, Peasnick just had nothing to offer for Gallon in that Mercedes, and well done to Gallon as well. He really showed, even though he went back a little bit further in the pack and had a few issues throughout the race, he fought his way back through and made the most of the positions that he could make up.
Yeah, certainly did. Well, we've got drivers coming in for interviews. The first one that we are going to come to is, well, our race winner is not here, but second place, John Peaceneck. John, welcome to the commentary box. You had a good lead there, but unfortunately it didn't work out for you.
Yeah, hey boys. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, unfortunately, thought I was sort of sitting pretty, but the hot weather or the hot track temperature, and obviously my tires, my car was just slowly getting looser and looser, and obviously confidence going down a little bit, and just yeah, I just couldn't hold on much longer. So I did make one little mistake. Around the back of the circuit, if I didn't do that, maybe, but still very happy with second in those temps in this car. So yeah, pretty happy.
Yeah, it'll certainly work out well in your championship battle with Ross Rizzo. He had his issues, but still recovered to finish sixth. But that will certainly get you a leg up in the championship standings.
Yeah, very much so. After the last race, mate, I was words can't describe how I felt about my stupidity pit lane penalty. But so yeah, very happy to get a race completed and up the front there, and just continue the points with the points, and hopefully just keep staying up the top and just stay consistent and get the championship.
Certainly. Are you finding the McLaren a better player than the Ford GT?
Yeah, they both have their pros and cons. They're both both hard to drive in their own way. But yeah, in competitive wise, obviously the McLaren's much quicker in its current state. Yeah, so I used to drive the McLaren a lot when I first joined iRacing, so it's taken me a little bit to get back in the swing of things. But yeah, pretty happy to be in it, mate, and wouldn't want to drive any of the other ones now, to be honest.
So it's coming home in a way. Before we let you go, John, who would you like to thank?
Mate, just a big little shout out to Element Motorsports, mate. Just a very small team, but we should get together and get good results. So yeah, just to them boys. Thank you.
John Peaseneck there for Element Motorsports, your second place finisher. We are now going to bring in our third place finisher, Mr. Trent Thomas from Fusion Sim Racing. Trent, third for you after a fourth place start. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely stoked. I was surprised I had the pace to stay with those guys at the front. So, but yeah, happy to bring home a podium, which yeah, it's my goal to get a podium. So I'm really happy with the result.
Was it just a case of staying behind the guys in front of you, trying to pick up positions where they came, or were you raring to go for that entire race? We noticed that you were very close in that pack at some points.
Yeah, right at the start of the race, I had the pace to really be right on the back of them, and then about halfway through that first stint, I'm not sure what happened, but I just sort of faded off, and I think the lap times become pretty stagnant. Couldn't really catch them, wasn't really losing them either. And then I actually realised after my pit stop I didn't have the traction control turned on for that whole first stint, so I was having a bit of trouble getting the power down out of some of the corners, and that turned out to be the reason why.
Yeah, well, we certainly noticed that you had a big up in pace, particularly towards the end of the race. You almost had John Peaseneck there. Do you think if the race was a lap longer, you would have got him?
I'd like to think so. I made a couple of errors on the last couple of laps while trying to catch him. He seemed strong in the first half of the track, and I seemed to gather that back in the second half. Whether or not that would have led to a passing opportunity, I don't know. But yeah, I had fun either way.
Certainly, and a podium finish out of that as well. Before we let you go, Trent, who gets it done for you?
That'd be AWS, Dripping Paint Graphics, and Eclipse Signage.
Thank you very much for joining us, Trent. We will see you in a couple of weeks' time at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Thanks, guys. See you then.
Trent Thomas there for Fusion Sim Racing, your third place finisher, and our final interviewee for tonight. Wow, Ross Rizzo. You were the championship leader coming into this round, but after lap one, it seemed to us like it was all over for you. But amazingly, once again, you managed to claw it all back and finish a position up from where you started. You must be stoked with that one.
Yeah, pretty pleased. I was actually really gutted for Reese because I saw it all kind of unfold and he was trying to do the right thing, and then we all got cleaned up. But I think the rest of the field did a really good job of avoiding that. And yeah, I knew we could get back into the top 10. We had the pace, but we need to do something a little different, and that was pit under safety car and then pit again nice and early to get clear track.
Well, it ended up working out well for you in the end, and you managed to salvage a position from all of that. But had that lap 1 incident not happened, do you think that it would have been a higher position for you anyway, especially considering what happened to other guys in the top 10?
Potentially, but it's not really worth thinking about because, you know, we've proven you can do well in this championship by ticking off top 5s and top 10s, and that's what I got tonight. So, and that's where I felt the car was today. Maybe a little bit higher, but hey, I got a result I was after.
You certainly did, and the championship battle between you and John Peasnick has really closed up with this. So, I mean, I suppose we can expect what kind of answer you give, but I suppose it's still business as usual at Trick Sim Sports. Just try and get those positions where you can.
Yeah, read me like a book. Yeah, just calculated risk management, get results where we can. Like we said, top 5s can get you a championship. So you know, and John's been on fire. Element Motorsports have been on fire. Louis been quick. Trent had a great night tonight, and he's certainly going to be one to watch out for, as many others are too.
Yes, indeed. Well, before we let you go, Rizzo, let's hear who gets it done for you.
Thanks very much to Trick Sim Sports, the boys, Martin and Anthony, for the hard setup work. Trick Fabrications, HRS, HPP Simulations. Oh, and Forzan, of course. But he couldn't make it tonight, so shout out to you, mate. And we'll catch you at Scops.
That was Ross Rizzo there for Trick Sim Sports, and we have our race winner now in the commentary box with us to cap off the interviews for tonight, Luis Paulo Gallon. Congratulations on your victory. It was certainly a wild one.
Well, thanks, mate. It's good to be back winning races. The last couple races, I had like internet issues, steering wheel issues, and I was up front, so it's good to be here now.
That pass on John Peasnick on the last lap. Peasnick, of course, with his couple of mistakes as you were coming up to him after the pit stops. That move on him at the carousel, how calculated was that?
My heart was really racing in that, so I gotta, yeah, I thought, well, John has been struggling for, you know, a couple laps before that. I had a very quick car on the straights, so I had to go for the gap. John left just enough gap for me to go there, so
definitely had to go for that gap. I mean, you do have Ayrton Senna on the bonnet of your car, so it definitely makes sense. But I guess coming off this victory, Louise, you've certainly got optimism for the rest of the championship now.
My qualifying pace has been really strong, so I just have to, you know, keep the car on track. Yeah, bag the points. So that's what I'm planning to do for the rest of the championship.
Well, it certainly looks like it's a strategy that will pay off if Trick Sim Sports championships are anything to go by. Before we let you go, Louise, who would you like to thank?
Like everyone that's, you know, helped me when I first started. Damian McPhee is the guy behind all my, you know, all my success in iRacing pretty much. Yeah, so that's it.
Well, congratulations once again, Louise. Hopefully we talk to you again next round.
Cheers.
Well, that caps off our interviews for tonight, Brock and David. Brock, that was certainly a good race, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that was really impressive, and there was some great racing, not only with our leaders up the front there, as we saw early on in the race and throughout, but in the mid-pack as well. We had some great battle packs developing from 5th back to 12th or something like that at one stage, with Cummings battling up in the middle there. So that was really, really impressive. And I think, this gives everyone out there a taste of what Sprint Series Australasia is all about. And I hope that we can keep this standard going throughout the rest of the championship, because it's great. And, like Trent Thomas said, I should say, he mentioned that, if you can get top 5s and top 10s, that's how to win a championship. You don't have to win every race, but you just have to be there or thereabouts every race. And he saw that, and he took what he could get that race, which is a great attitude to have. And I think if all drivers have an attitude like that, it's going to be some great racing.
Yeah, certainly. David, your thoughts on tonight?
I love this track here at Watkins Glen. It just doesn't matter what cars we bring here. It's always good racing. And I think this layout that we've run this round without the inner loop bus stop chicane, it's given us what we thought we'd get. A lot of drafting, a lot of overtakes, a lot of passing attempts into the carousel or outer loop. And it was the scene of a lot of passes and also a few crashes in this race. And I think, all things considered, it's a great race and it's a great track to come to.
It certainly was. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for the GT Leagues Australia Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia. The fun doesn't stop, though, on the iRacing Esports Network or on V8's Online. On Sunday, we've got the V8 Supercar Online Premiere Series from Interlagos. And on Monday, we have the official iRacing V8 Supercar Series at Interlagos on V8's Online. On Wednesday, we've got the Porsches, the fantastic Super Cup Australasia Championship. And we'll be going to the same circuit as Sprint Series Australasia, so you can expect them at Watkins Glen. Next Friday on V8's Online, we've got the Australian Online Supercar Championship at Daytona International Speedway. That's going to be an interesting one. And then, of course, next Sunday, the date for next Sunday is the 12th of August. I had to quickly bring up my calendar there, guys. The Majors Series at Spa. The 2.4 hours of Spa in GT3 cars. Watch out for that. You can catch it all on V8's Online and on the iRacing Esports Network. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Brock and David. It was a pleasure once again.
No, good to be here, and I'm really keen for the Porsches next week, and really cool to have David up here, and he had some awesome insight as well, so that was great.
Thanks, Brock. Thanks, Reese. Yeah, I won't be in the commentary booth because I'll be in the car for the Porsche Super Cup Australasia next week. But maybe in a fortnight, I'll be back with you guys.
We'll certainly see about that. Well, that brings to an end proceedings once again. iRacing Esports Network. We are V8's Online. This was the Sprint Series Australasia presented by Geodesic Racing. We hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.